All right, welcome to the Prolific Fitness Podcast, where we do our. How do you want to do this intro, actually? This is our first episode, right?
Right.
Man, it's been a while.
Long time.
Yeah. So, this is the Prolific Fitness Podcast, where research meets application to create prolific results. So, welcome to ProlificPT Gym, the Lee Summit's premium training facility in downtown Lee Summit, Missouri, just south of Kansas City. And yeah, we're bringing this podcast to you live. So super excited for it. Co-host Stan. And let's dive in, man. So episode 1, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
It's been a long journey.
Last time we did this podcast, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl for the second time, but not the second time in a row. And now we won twice in a row.
Yep.
So I think the last time we did this was
2022.
Probably 2022.
Yeah.
Now we got a space where education meets application.
Yeah, right. We've always talked about having a gym, and that's something that was really cool for us. And I mean, we met back in
Probably 2020.
Well, technically, we met for the first time in 2019, but we didn't really know each other.
Yeah.
Started working together in 2020. To go over our backgrounds, and first, let's talk about the landscape and the framework of the gym, right? So, the gym itself, we're a small group training facility in downtown Lee Summit, but we're different from typical small groups. Like the way I always thought of small group was like an F45 or a CrossFit box where you go in and you have, some instructor telling you, hey, this is the workout of the day. You're going to do this workout, clock in, clock out kind of thing and go home.
Yeah.
And what I loved about being a personal trainer for so long, because both of us have been personal trainers for over 10 years each. One thing I loved about being a personal trainer was the understanding that everyone is unique. There's not like a one size fits all approach to optimizing someone's life. And so when it came to having a group fitness gym, just because I understand that in order to really build a good community and to make a gym able to grow, right? Both in the membership base and obviously like profit and everything else, like group fitness is the best model for that. But I didn't want to lose that personal training touch that makes, personal trainers so impactful on someone's life. So what makes us unique is the fact that though it is a group fitness model, we have very good trainers that work here and give that unique approach to everybody, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so what's your thought, probably before we get into us, kind of what's your thought process when you came in, understand that this was a group style gym, and how has that changed your views of group fitness?
So it was actually a little scary because I've done a group model before and I wasn't in love with it. So then coming into this and us kind of talking about it, saying, look, I know it's a group model. It's not what we normally would do. However, there is kind of a spin to it that we can put. So it's still very personalized. It's still very goal-based. If we have a couple people working towards something very similar, it's nice to be able to get them within a group together. And typically the groups aren't big groups. So a lot of times it may be, unless we have like that group that is here for that camaraderie, typically the groups are like, maybe 2 to 3 people, may even be people who are related. But a lot of times it's got to be you and your goal while everyone else is in here to focus on their goal. And the thing that makes it awesome to me is the fact that it's not just me working with you. It's you working with me and our other trainer and our other trainer. And it really kind of brings a lot of the best of both worlds together, honestly, because of all the different backgrounds. I think the biggest thing that was really scary for me was like, oh, wait, so you're saying that I'm not following the traditional model of just sitting there with one person. I have to be able to turn my attention to multiple people at a time while also giving them that personalized touch and getting them in here and out of here while also being considerate of their time, knowing the times they got in here, knowing how to best manage their time, as well as being able to mix not only the strength aspect, the cardio aspect, but also the mobility aspect, while still maintaining the fact that, like, at the end of the day, I'm a coach first, and I'm going to look for what's in the best interest of my clients, regardless if it's a small group, semi-private, or a private session. So that was the biggest thing for me, was really adjusting to that to begin with.
I love that. And I mean, you made the adjustment well, which I knew you would. And I think there's a big fear as a trainer of switching. And I've worked with a lot of trainers in the past as a mentor in this space. And a big fear that a lot of trainers have is they don't want to lose that one-on-one touch because they feel like their clients need it. That's what their clients are paying for. Well, it saves the client some money to switch to a small group model, right? But at the same time, if you're doing your job well, the clients don't need someone to hold their hand.
Absolutely.
They're honestly spending a lot of their money for someone to just talk to hang out with during the session, and to hold them accountable. So if you do your job well, they know the movements after their first few weeks.
Yeah.
But they keep paying you because of the community that you specifically bring them. But whenever we bring them into a larger community of all driven people who care about each other, and they're all in here working towards their goals, suddenly they don't need their hand held through a session. They just need to know what they're doing next, and that they're doing it well. And then that person on their left and right to talk to, and to motivate, and to build that community and camaraderie with. And now we get to become facilitators of that without being kind of sucked into it with them.
Right.
We can give them other people who are in that process of their journey alongside them to do that. And so that's the cool thing with this specific group fitness model. Another thing about our gym too is it has multiple arms to it, where we have an online sector with some amazing online coaches and an amazing online community, especially like our prolific women's community program, where it's like ran by Julia. She's out of Savannah, Georgia. She's a immigrant from Germany. She did like physical therapy work there, came here, became a firefighter, just complete BA woman who knows a lot about hormones and hormonal distress and nutrition and training around, people, women who are starting to get older and need to understand how their hormones work and understanding labs. She's an amazing wealth of information with that. And for our coach, Matt, who's out of Colorado, he was a 12-year law enforcement officer who does a lot of strength and conditioning coaching. And so we have, online coaches that work with our clients as well as us. A lot of our members, they all get nutrition coaching. They all get supplement guides and plans and stuff like that. We also have a physical therapist and an occupational therapist here at our Prolific Wellness Clinic, or Prolific Therapy Clinic, I should say, and an awesome massage therapist on staff. So we have access to those resources as well, which we'll definitely have the PT and OT on here to talk later on. Really awesome. I'm kind of biased. The OT is my wife. So shout out to Peyton.
There you go.
But no, they're really awesome. And definitely both. What's great is both the PT and the OT have experience as trainers. Yeah. They started in the fitness industry and found a love for the rehab side of things, and then went into PT and OT work. It wasn't the other way around. And a lot of physical therapists, I'll hear, we went over and talked to the firefighters the other day, and they're like, man, we go to like some 85-year-old who just tells us not to do anything for 8 weeks. And then we go back and the same thing happens again. They wanted someone with a strength and conditioning certification and an understanding of fitness.
Absolutely.
Around physical therapy. It's like, great, come check us out. Like that's where we are. And we also have a great partnership with BioEdge Sciences. Completely, a lot of our clients and members talk about how they don't like artificial sweeteners and food colorings and dyes and all this. Well, BioEdge, it's amazing supplements tailored towards holistic health practices. They have like gut health and greens and all those types of things, but completely natural and organic. And then Icon Meals, which is an amazing meal prep company that just delicious food that'll deliver right to your door. So like we have a bunch of different arms to this that really serve our clients in a well-rounded way that
Absolutely.
makes sure that this is kind of like a turnkey one-stop shop to their success. Um, but that being said, I digress. We're not here to sell ourselves, right? This is really tailored to our members and to how we can help serve our members to be the best they can be, to optimize their life. I mean, a lot of our members are busy professionals trying to enhance their lives the best that they can. And that's through getting stronger or getting, better blood labs or hormone levels or looking leaner, building confidence, that they can go into a boardroom and just crush a pitch or something without having to second guess themselves or how they look or if people are judging them when they walk in, right?
Right.
And so this is really tailored towards our members. That being said, we're still kind of new. A lot of the members don't know us. So if you could give kind of a rough introduction into what brought you into the fitness industry and being a coach.
Mm. Yeah. So I'd always been active throughout my younger years because growing up where I grew up, it's either you do some type of sports or you do some type of not sports. We'll just say that. So I chose to go more of a positive route. So within sports, that kind of helped me build confidence and all that good stuff. Went to the Marines for 4 years, and on deployment, a lot of guys were talking about getting certified as a personal trainer. And I don't know why, but that really stuck with me because, we'd go out and do 5 a.m. PT, and there was really no rhyme or reason to why we're running 8 miles post deployment when most of the guys were about to get out. There was no rhyme or reason to it. But for me, I was like, well, I feel like there could be a smarter way of doing this. Most of the time people would, we would just run and all that stuff. But I also knew, I was like, man, weightlifting could really help quite a few people because we had some Marines who were overweight and they weren't hitting those marks that they needed to be promoted. And these people had been in a lot longer than I had. So for me, I was like, what if I learn how to train and then I can help people? So a lot of it was being on deployment, helping out Marines who maybe weren't familiar with the gym. And I'm not saying that I was the best trainer at that point because I was not. I was not. I just went off of what I knew at that time. But what I ended up doing was really creating a passion for this. So by the time that I got out, I went and I worked with a group that knew I didn't know anything at all. So whenever I actually got in front of a paying client, it wasn't the best outcome that it could have been. So I ended up going to a school. And that's where I learned my base. Learned my base at the school, came back out, went from a corporate spot to more of an independent, model for myself. And this is prior to me ever doing online. So really cut my teeth for like 8 years, actually learning my craft, a lot of mess ups, a lot of just kind of figuring out what worked, what didn't. That's 8 years of science saying this, and then someone refuting it, and then me having to kind of stay on top of that and adjust as needed because hey, fitness is always growing. But the main thing that kind of brought me to fitness was like one, the confidence that I have whenever I can use my education and the research that I do, not to mention the confidence that I have with me just applying something in the gym and then being like, man, that worked for me. Let me see if this works for somebody else. But also the fact that and I have kids. I want to be that 70-year-old guy that can still hang with my kids and they're trying to play catch up. So that's the main thing that brought me to fitness. What's kept me there is the fact that more and more people need it now. I can remember back in 2014 when they were talking about literally on the radio talking about by the year 2020 there will be a need for 70,000 trainers, and that was an NSAM commercial.
Yeah.
You remember that? So yeah. So me getting into fitness was kind of like a match made in heaven. It was. I won't say it was a seamless transition from the Marines, but it was definitely the transition from, coaching my Marines, they didn't have a choice to coaching the everyday business person. It's a huge transition for me, but it's one of those that I can use my experience where I had absolutely no equipment to now where I have access to great equipment and people that are actually willing to listen and want to get better. So that's my story in getting here to Lee Summit.
Oh, that's great. And so when you were in the Marines, that's like what really sparked your curiosity about fitness and coaching. And like, obviously you did sports in high school, and we actually played each other in football in high school, and wrestled against each other. Like, so honestly, we probably met a long time ago and just don't remember.
Right.
But that being said, it was that experience in the Marine Corps and understanding not just how to coach people, but how to lead people. Right. And that, would you say that helped you in that transition?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason I say that is because there were a lot of times when I didn't agree with the current leadership, but I had to understand why they were making the decisions they were making. It was based upon their experiences. So that experience kind of imparted on me. And once I became a leader, I understood, the first thing I understood was that we have to, and in order for us to be disciplined, we have to have some type of structure, which included us PTing. Like, it's funny because it all kind of goes back into the name. The PT is at the center of everything that we did in terms of being Marines. PT is at the center of everything that we do in terms of being personal trainers. Because it was always, hey, you're a walking billboard. But I don't think I understood that. So if I'm practicing this discipline, I may want to go eat McDonald's. I may want to skip the gym, but I'm a walking billboard. That discipline has really kind of imparted the fact that, like, this is a big part of my life. Not only is it my job, which is really easy to get lost in that, hey, this is your job, rather than like, hey, you join this because you love it. So bringing the two together, it's gotten a lot easier, especially whenever I see a lot of our clients like doing stuff that they didn't think they could do when they walked in the door, or just sprinkling a little bit of knowledge on them, because we train people early. So my brain sometimes, and like I said, if you guys are listening to this, I apologize for my brain in the morning sometimes. But by 5:30, I'm kicking on, like, almost all cylinders. But I do think that that start with the Marines really helped get us here. And I mean, I would even ask you, like, do you feel like, well, because you started training prior to you going into the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the Marine Corps kind of helped push you over the top in terms of, hey, this is what I'm going to pursue, and I'm going to just keep that trajectory going up, rather than like, hey, I just want to be just a trainer? Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, that makes sense. And I would say for me, it was more like in college, I was a part of the like officer selection candidacy school. So like kind of like OCS, but for the Marine Corps, other than like the Army, where they have like ROTC programs. Well, the Marine Corps, we call it OCS. And so I went to Missouri State. Originally, I was wanting to play football and realized real quick that I was going to be the smallest one on the team. And like the opportunity to play was so small that it just wasn't even worth pursuing. So instead, I got into powerlifting and bodybuilding. And so that grew my curiosity. Like, I always liked lifting. That was what got me good at football, was like I was good in the weight room. I wasn't always the best player per se, but I at least did my job really well, and I was strong. And so for me, I loved working out. I loved fitness. Decided to pursue bodybuilding and powerlifting, and I would say did decently well at that. To the point where I was able to like get some sponsorships, compete in some pretty cool meets and stuff like that, meet some cool people. And I interned at a gym that was voted by powerlifting.com. They kind of run all of the powerlifting stats for all the federations. And they ranked this gym the number one powerlifting gym in the world, like 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
And so it had some amazing coaches. Matt Reynolds, who kind of co-started Starting Strength with Mark Ripito, and does a lot of like really high level powerlifting and Olympic lifting coaching all over the world. Like he's ran clinics in Korea for Ollie lifting, like that type of stuff. Got to intern under him and his staff at this gym. And it opened my eyes at 18, getting certified at 18 and working under some of the best coaches in the world.
Yeah.
Opened my eyes to like how little I know and how little I will always know. And it made me think like, man, I need to learn a lot. And there were times I was pretty hot-headed and thought I knew more than I did. And now I can look back in hindsight and be like, you idiot. Like, there's still, the moment you realize you don't know anything is the moment you actually start making progress towards knowledge. And so for me, the Marine Corps, to answer your question, allowed me to take my fitness to the next level because I got to see it from a different perspective. I got to see it in application outside of just sport itself, though I still competed in bodybuilding while I was in the Marines.
Yeah.
I got to see what training looked like in an applicable sense just for life, for functionality, for optimization. And it opened the door to me to learn a lot more from people that weren't just centrally located to me.
Right.
So I got into the Marines, did my thing there, and experienced the whole Marine Corps journey. But I also did I managed 2 gyms in California while I was stationed out there, and I also kind of helped run what's called our BCP program, which is like a body composition program for the Marine Corps to make sure that they're in standards. I was one of the few nutritional certified Marines that did training outside of the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
So they kind of came to me and were like, hey, you know how to do this? We want you to do this. It's better it come from you than just someone who is in the Marines and has a 6-pack and just throwing stuff at people. Right. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And ended up being able to work with a lot of Marines to stay in standards, to be able to go, shoot, move, communicate better than they would have. And got to help some people get promoted because they were able to be in better shape, better standards. And then my time being a trainer outside of the gym and managing those gyms allowed me to work with other trainers and to understand how the business aspect works, to understand how marketing and networking and how like that whole process of business works, which sparked my interest there, which ultimately led me to, pursuing more certifications and degrees and finishing college and having a kinesiology degree from California Baptist, which is one of the top accredited kinesiology programs in the country, but also starting businesses and pursuing that. And now, us owning a gym and being able to grow Prolific as a gym and as a brand, I guess I should say. And so that's kind of my journey. But the Marine Corps really was a catalyst in the discipline and the curiosity of like, how much can I grow this now that I've seen more than just what's in Springfield, Missouri. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that is one of the great things about being able to travel whenever you're young, is being able to see places that you wouldn't have been able to see, but also experiencing culture like you probably wouldn't have been able to in the first place. California was a big culture shock for me, but then going from California to North Carolina kind of felt like home. It felt like I was back in Missouri with the beach. I had a beach, but the one thing that felt too much like home was the food. And that's one of those things that me coming back from the Marines, I had to reteach myself how to eat. While I was in, I can kind of get away with stuff. You're 17, 18 years old, you can eat anything. But you come back, you're 22, 23 years old, got all these years of eating like crap, then you gotta kind of have to try and structure yourself. I will go into that on another episode about how I gained 40 pounds. Okay.
Yeah.
But I do think having stories like that really helps be able to put ourselves within our clients' shoes too. It kind of helps us look at certain things and say, all right, I think we can do that a little bit better. I think we can do that better than someone who hasn't been in that situation or someone who hasn't worked with someone who's in that situation. So before I get on that tangent, what else you got for this pod?
Well, honestly, I think this is a good stopping point because that next episode, I'd love to talk about, nutrition
Yes.
and what that looks like in our fitness journey. And that's something, we do nutrition coaching here for our members, but it's still something that a lot of people struggle with. And they think, well, I'm working out, I'm doing cardio, I should just see results. And instead, it's like, well, there's a whole other side of this coin that you have to equate. Like a silver dollar is not just the heads. Like there's the tails too that make up the dollar, right? So
Yep.
It's not 50% kitchen or 50% gym. It's 100% of your lifestyle, and all of that equates your lifestyle. So that is the first episode of the Prolific Fitness Podcast. Thank you, Stan, and thank you to anyone who stuck around this long to listen to it. We will be back.
All right. We'll talk to you guys soon.